What's up guys, going straight back in the video. Today's video is another character swap. Today's video is what if Mike and Duncan swapped seasons. I quite like this one because they had a bit of a rivalry in like All Stars. So this idea was by Duncan TD LOL. Thank you for your suggestion. Sorry for this being late. It's not an excuse for me being late, but if I'm busy, it's not an excuse, but I do need to. I have so many theories I really want to do. Leave my own ideas. So anyway, back to this theory. So right off the bat, Mike is the respectable timeline. So in episode 2 is jumping off the cliff. Mike's introduction will be the exact same as it was when we invented the island. I think Mike would get on with characters like Tyler pretty well. But beyond that, nothing really changes. Izzy and Katie would still swap teams because they would want to be with Sadie and Katie. Still want to be with each other, and this is who jumps up. So, who doesn't jump on the Gophers would still be Beth. And on the Killer Bass, DJ, and not Ezekiel because he jumped. Against he still jump. And DJ didn't jump as well. Duncan did jump in the original as Courtney because their accusation. So Mike, would he jump in this version? Would Mike jump off the cliff? I think Mike would jump because he did jump in the original. And the Killer Bass would still lose. And Mike would still have his personalities. Chester, Mike's personalities wouldn't affect the challenge. So Mike would explain that obviously he has multiple personalities and he's afraid to tell people. And I think the Gophers would win, and Zeke still says his comments that he gets voted off. Again, Mike doesn't change the challenge. The only difference being is he mightn't last as long as Duncan, but Duncan didn't win the challenge in the original, so Evo still gets sabotaged by Heather. Okay, now we get some actual changes. Because Duncan's not around, Mike wouldn't go asleep on this team. And that's important because we have to talk about what actually happens in Dodge Brawl. Mike would turn into Svetlana and be dodging effortlessly against other players. And so every time Mike has a character, I'm going to put one of his personality reveals and go here. Mike would then accidentally stub his toe, which would end up activating Chester in this challenge. Now, the big reason the Bass won in the original is because of Duncan and Harold's dodging skills. But we don't see Mike with any sports ideas. And I think even without Noah competing, the Gophers were really good in this challenge in the original, so I think it's safe for me to say that the Gophers would win, because even though Mike would be pretty good at this. Now I think without Duncan being here and Harold's mad dodging skills, I do think Harold's dodging skills, I think the Gophers would win the challenge. And Tyler went off halfway through the episode with Lindsay. So I think Mike would get on with Katie, Sadie, and Tyler, so they would vote for Courtney. But the other 5 would vote for Tyler. So I think, unfortunately, for my boy Tyler here, I think he's getting voted off. Episode 5. This is Not Quite Famous. Okay, so Justin, Trent, Heather. Heather still has the Alliance. And it would be Jeff, Bridget, TJ. Of course, Jeff skateboard breaks. Harold does the beatboxing. And I think Katie and Sadie would have both liked Mike and explained how that he's a really good guy. And Mike's afraid to reveal his personalities to them. And everyone votes for Heather, or Justin here. So it's Cody votes for Heather, Gwen, LaShawna. And then Noah would be the swing vote, because it'd be 5 and 5. So I think Noah would actually vote for Heather because he'd be smart enough if there's an alliance. So I think Heather gets eliminated. At 6, this is where we have the Sucky Outdoors. So Mike would put on a hat and would turn into Manitoba Smith. We have no Mal yet, so Manitoba. I think he would turn into Manitoba Smith. Manitoba explains on how he's going to survive and help them get out the forest. And I think Katie and Sadie still have the argument, so they get lost. And Manitoba would go back to try and find them. But I think what would happen is, with Noah's smarts, they could get to the end. And Mike gets Katie and Sadie. And they would vote for Katie like the original. So episode 7 is Phobia Factor. Mike would comfort Sadie on how she lost her best friend, but she still has him. And this will actually bring Sadie and Mike closer together. Harold and Mike are still buddies at this point, they're friends. And DJ and Jeff. Obviously the bullying to Harold wouldn't happen because Duncan isn't around, and Duncan was the one who did that originally. And everyone would reveal their fears and go on to the fears challenge. And the fears. DJ adjusting a snake, he could pass. Bridget fails. Jeff fails. Harold would fail. Sadie, bad haircuts, would pass. We'll get to Mike in a minute. Trent passes. Gwen passes. Lashana fails. Cody fails the time run. Owen and Izzy pass flying. Lindsay passes bad haircuts. And Beth passes her bug fear. Noah and Justin looking ugly fails. And Noah's fear would be dolls. I think he is not doing that. And then Mike's fear, Courtney wouldn't do it. It wouldn't really matter what Mike's fear would be, because the Killer Bass already loses this challenge. But I'm just going to say his fear would be revealing his multiple personalities. And I don't think Mike at this point in the season will be able to do that, because he is developing feelings for Sadie in this, and I think he will get a lot closer to Sadie in this episode. And I think Mike would be quite terrified that telling Sadie would push her away, even though she would accept him for who he is. And the Bass lose and they vote for Courtney. Now, the big reason why they didn't vote for Courtney, which made sense to me, is nobody is number one. I believe they didn't vote for Courtney because of Duncan. Because I think Duncan convinced Jeff and DJ to not vote Courtney. And I think Harold, Mike, and Sadie would convince DJ and Jeff to vote for Courtney. Especially because Courtney's obnoxious attitude and infectious attitude as well. And how she was quite harsh to DJ for doing his fear. So I think they could convince DJ, and she cost them the challenge. So I think Courtney gets eliminated. Courtney's annoyed at the rest of her team for getting her voted off, but they're just relieved that she's out of the game. Episode 8, Up the Creek. So, Izzy and Lashana, Noah and Owen, Trent and Gwen, Beth and Lindsay, which leaves Justin, Owen. Cody wants to go with Gwen, but because Heather, Trent, and Gwen go together. Noah, Justin and Owen. Owen and Noah. I think this is why they become friends. Izzy, Beth and Lindsay. Shauna, which leaves Justin and Cody. I think Cody and Justin are going to actually work together. Justin is going to try and manipulate Cody into getting rid of Trent. And I think Izzy would still in the idea. Cody would still try to save Trent and Lindsay. And I think Trent would say, thanks, bro. And in the original, Gwen and Trent tried to make up, but they would make up a bit faster, I think. You could argue that they wouldn't go in the same boat because of the last challenge. But I beg to differ. I think, if anything, they'd be more likely to get into a boat together because Heather's not around. And I think DJ would still push back his team, Mike, and I think Mike's shirt would actually rip off, which makes him turn into Vito, which really would get Sadie to like Vito. So Mike would turn into Vito, and feels like would push back his team. So I think Vito would actually be able to win for his team, and Izzy still gets chased down by the CRMP. So still an automatic elimination for Izzy. And episode 9, Paintball Deer Hunter. It's the Days and the Hunters. Jeff, Bridget, Harold, Mike, Sadie, DJ, Cody, Owen, Trent, Gwen. Obviously, Justin would be a deer as well, which leaves Gwen, Noah, LaShawn, Lindsay, and Beth. DJ would be able to survive with his team. Mike was seen surviving in All Stars pretty well in the shooting challenge, so he'd be really good at this. Gwen would do alright. Noah would be really good at this challenge. But beyond that, I don't see anyone else being good in the Gophers here. So the Bass win, the Gophers lose, and they were in elimination. So Lindsay, Beth, and Justin can get Owen. And beyond that, I don't think Justin can get anyone else. Because I don't think you convince Owen to vote for Noah because they're close friends. You can't convince him to vote for Cody because they're friends as well. Cody's cool with Trent and Gwen at this point because obviously Trent saved him last challenge. And Noah, obviously Gwen and Cody are friends now. So these 5 vote for Justin, and I think Justin would get eliminated after this challenge. Actually, Beth, the Tiki statue, would she get it? I've explained before, Beth wouldn't get the statue because the entire episode should be directed by Justin. So I don't think Beth would get the statue in this version of the event. Without Duncan being around. Episode 10, the cooking challenge. Jeff would still be head chef. And I think it would be Noah. So Mike and Sadie are talking in the kitchen, and they're getting on very well. DJ and Bridget, and Mike would then actually stub his toe and would start complaining at the pan. Sadie then goes off by herself. Mike then turns back into himself. Harold is like, "What's going on, dude?" I think Harold would figure out very quickly, or Mike and even Noah. I think Noah would figure out Mike has multiple personality disorder. Multiple personalities, because Cameron was able to figure it out in the original, and I'm pretty sure in 9 episodes Noah could figure it out. So, but Noah keeps that knowledge to himself at this point. And Owen still eats the ribs. So I think the Gophers are losing. Last win. And without Beth's Tiki statue, I think Owen would get eliminated because he ate the ribs. Gwen, Trent, and LaShawna would vote for Owen. Lindsay and Beth would vote for Owen. Because LaShawna can be quite persuasive. I don't think she can convince Cody to vote for Owen. And she can't convince Noah. So Owen's out. Episode 11. Who you can trust. Okay. So, Gwen and Cody, DJ and Mike in the climbing challenge. Mike returns Svetlana for the entire challenge, so I think DJ and Svetlana would be able to win. Lindsay and Trent. Jeff and Bridget, I think Trent still got sent to the infirmary. Jeff still goes off into our episode. Then it would be Harold. The environmental would be Sadie and Svetlana. Sadie and Vita. Mike would then activate Svetlana again. So Svetlana, Sadie, LaShawna, and Noah. I think Sadie and Svetlana would end up winning the challenge. Sadie would still do pretty bad, like she did in the original. I think Mike would tell everyone that Sadie's for him, and I think here they would still win. Harold and Bridget. And Lindsay and Beth. So I think Beth gets something from Marie, and then Gwen and Shauna, Jeff and DJ. Now, because DJ would still have lost his bunny, and without Duncan being around, I do think the Killer Bats would win this challenge, because the big reason they lost in the original was because Duncan had the bunny, and DJ lifted up his mask after hearing bunny. So I think DJ would actually be able to win. And the Gophers lose. So Noah and Cody are a duo, and Gwen and Trent. So Noah goes to Lindsay and Beth and says we need to get rid of Gwen, Trent, or LaShawna. I think LaShawna can be quite persuasive. So I think what would happen is they wouldn't want to vote for Cody. So these four have majority. So Cody convinces LaShawna and Gwen not to vote for, and Trent not to vote for Noah because he's friends with Noah. So between Lindsay and Beth, they decide to go for Lindsay, since Lindsay and Noah and Trent are... Trent is annoyed at Lindsay for getting him injured in the challenge. I think Noah would agree that Lindsay is going to be a threat going forward. Everyone gangs up on Lindsay after she injured Trent in this challenge. Even though it was by accident, they still vote her off. Episode 12, Basic Straining. So, the Basic Straining Challenge. Mike and Sadie are getting on very well. And they would ask Harold, the three of them should make an alliance. Because they're like a trio. They're the golden trio at this point. And Sadie says, while she does miss Katie, she actually likes Mike and still has feelings for him, and Mike feels the same, but he's afraid of telling her personalities. Harold would go to Mike and explain that do you have multiple personalities and your characters are not just characters but they're actual people. Mike would then reveal this to Harold, but Harold would say, chill, I'll help you learn to control them. I think Noah would also approach Mike, and Harold knows like what you want. Noah says he wants an alliance with them because even though he's on the opposite team right now, he can be a good vote in the merge. Mike and Harold says what's in it for them. He says he'll protect not only Sadie, but he will protect him and Mike, and will help Mike with the multiple personality disorder. Mike thinks about it and agrees as long as he keeps this a secret, and Noah says sure. We then see a confessional of Noah saying obviously he is using them to get further into the game, but it wouldn't do any harm to build some friends as well. So in Basic Straining, we have Beth, who tags out first. Sadie would tag out first. And Beth, and Mike, realizing Sadie could go home, tries to win this challenge. The 300-word essay Noah could pass, so Trent and DJ then lose. And Bridget was still lost around this point. The obstacles. Bridget loses on 300-word essay because we never see her lose. So Harold wouldn't be forced to quit this time because Duncan's not around, so he'd actually make it to the next round. And Noah's not making it across that obstacle course, and neither is Cody, and Sean and Gwen both make it to the end. So Jeff falls, and Harold. So it's whether or not Mike would have lasted, and Mike turns to Svetlana. So it's whether or not Svetlana would last longer than Gwen. Now, she's an Olympian, so I do think she would last way longer than Gwen would. So I think Mike would end up winning the challenge. Sadie hugs him, saying thank you. And proud of Mike, and then they stop hugging after realizing they were hugging each other. Mike and Sadie then. Mike hugs Sadie and is happy that they won the challenge. The Gophers are going to elimination. Now, Noah still has his alliance with Mike. So he goes to Cody and says, we need to get rid of Beth because I can't go home. You know that. So Noah and Cody decide to convince Gwen, Trent, and LaShawna to get rid of Beth. And Lashana is like, sure. Noah realizes next time he goes to elimination, he's definitely going home. He cannot lose any more challenges. Before the challenge starts, Noah would go to Harold and Mike, and obviously Sadie's off by herself. And Noah would then tell Mike's what's triggered Mike's personalities, because Cameron figured this out pretty quickly as well. So for Chester, it's pain. Vito's when his shirt comes off. Manitoba's when his hat's on, and Svetlana's when he is in danger and needs help with challenges. And I'm pretty sure all the triggers for them I said was right. If I said it wrong, please let me know in the comments. Anything I got wrong. But anyway, Mike would thank Noah, and Noah says no problem as long as they let him win today's challenge. Mike and Harold are like, why would they let him win? And Noah simply points out that he's definitely going home if he gets eliminated. And Mike and Harold says they can't promise that, and they're going to that comes from their stage of the challenge, but they'll see what they can do. Noah realizes he might be in a bit of trouble here. So extra torture, Trent and DJ. I think DJ still wins after accidentally pushing Trent out the plane, so he gets sent to the infirmary. Lashana and Jeff. I think Lashana could beat Jeff. And it would be Cody who would be on the sled. And then it would be Harold. Now, because there's no header for her top to come off, Harold actually wins the challenge. Also, episode 12 is an actual vote because he never rigged the votes. So Harold actually wins the challenge for the Killer Bass. So what's this mean? Well, the Gophers are going to elimination. Noah, I think Noah's going home after this challenge. I'm sorry, Noah. Lashana's not going to get rid of Trent or Gwen. She's not going to get rid of Cody. Because the big reason she got rid of Trent in the original was because she thought Trent cheated on Gwen. But now that Trent never cheats on Gwen, I don't think Noah could pull off the same maneuver as Heather did on Gwen. So I think Noah would get eliminated. So I don't think he would reveal Mike's most personalities, though. Because obviously he helped him. And Noah's like, fine, whatever. Noah says farewell to Cody and says hopefully that he wins in the merge. So now we have the boys and the girls. So we are going to quickly talk about this episode because this will actually be pretty important. So Gwen and Lashana. And episode 14. Right, so I'm not quite sure how Chris would do this. We're just going to say this is the teams, right? Mike says his personalities aren't that good at this challenge, so he wouldn't be that good here. And Lashana decides to make a girls' alliance. Similar to Duncan. Because I think Lashana's abrasiveness. Would be the one to do that in this challenge. So I think that episode 14, the guys would lose. Luckily, this is just a reward challenge. There's no significant reward in this challenge. So now we've explained that, we have to go and talk about. Now we've explained that, we gotta go to the merge. And we have to bring back Eva. And we gotta bring back Eva and Izzy. You could say Katie, or you could say Tyler, but sticking to the original the best I can, I think they were the perfect candidates to come back. So I think Eva and Izzy return to the game. So in episode 15, Mike is obviously like Sadie, and Lashana knows that Gwen doesn't want to get rid of Trent, Sadie doesn't want to get rid of Mike, and Bridget doesn't want to get rid of Jeff. So that leaves Lashana a bit of trouble because Harold likes Lashana, so technically she'd have about 6 votes, right? And I think what would happen is Lashana would still win the challenge, and Eva gets voted off. Even if Mike did beat Eva, I still think I was voted off Eva after this challenge. So episode 16 rolls around, and this is where we have the keys. So Mike's the Harold, and Sadie and Cody are the new characters that weren't here in the original. So I had to spin the wheel to decide who would win the challenge. So here is the wheel. The wheel will decide. Mike wins immunity. So Mike wins immunity. Okay. So Mike wins immunity. And Lashana has the girls. So Shauna has the girls' alliance. So she would just add Izzy to this, I think. So she would add Izzy, I think, into the girls' alliance. So she has Trent, Cody, Harold. I think Mike and Cody would actually get on in this episode. So Trent or Jeff. But Lashana doesn't have the numbers to get rid of them yet. So she decides to go to Cody, Harold, and DJ. And she also goes to Mike. Well, she doesn't go to Mike, actually. She goes to Cody, Harold, and DJ and says, we have to get rid of the couples because Gwen and Trent are a couple. Bridget and then Mike and Sadie, they're not a couple, but they get on so well. And then Izzy would also join them, so I think that's 5 votes for Lashana. So Lashana would choose to eliminate. I think they would choose to eliminate Izzy because she's the biggest threat. She's a returning contestant. I think at this point Lashana would realise that for now she needs to keep the girls' alliance together and then eventually get rid of the couples. So I think Izzy's out. Episode 17 is the Mike and Sadie together. I think Lashana would win immunity. Harold calls DJ out on the roof. And Lashana realizes Mike is the biggest threat. So she would go to DJ and she would go to Cody and explain that Mike needs to get eliminated. But Cody says, sure. So he pretends to work with Lashana and then he goes to Mike. He's not going to vote for Mike, so Lashana's annoyed at this. But Bridget is still in the girls' alliance and Gwen. So she tells the girls, we got to vote for Mike. Because Mike's the biggest threat. And in this timeline, Mike's won most challenges. So she votes for Mike. Jeff could be convinced to vote for Mike. Actually, Jeff's pretty cool with Mike. I think he wouldn't vote for him. So I think everyone would vote for Mike. With the exception of Cody and Harold. Because they wouldn't want to vote for Mike. Because they're a trio, and Sadie and Trent. Trent would. I think the girls could convince their guys to convince Jeff and Trent to vote for Mike. I think for Bridget and Jeff, though, they would be a lot more reluctant to because they were friends with Mike and they actually were on the same team. But they wouldn't have a problem with this because of the fact they would know he's a massive threat if he goes forward. So Mike's eliminated. Mike is really sad that he's eliminated and wishes his team farewell and hopes that they can wishes them the best of luck. Sadie walks into the dock of shame and is sad that he's eliminated along with Katie. Mike and Sadie kiss And Mike explains that he has multiple personalities. He really likes Sadie and hopes they can go out after the show. Sadie says sure, and she can introduce him to Katie again. And Mike says he would like that. Episode 18. This is the bike race. I'm just going to put Mike's personalities up here because they're eliminated. And the bike race then. So DJ wipes out. Sadie would forget the bolts because of Mike just getting eliminated. And I think Lashawna wipes out, even though she wouldn't be with Izzy the entire time. I still think she won't be that good at this challenge. And Gwen wipes out. So everyone else would qualify for the second round. So Jeff wipes out. I'm gonna say Jeff wipes out here. Trent's really good at making bikes, and Bridget has natural good awareness. So between Cody and Harold, I think Harold has mad biking skills, so I think he would cross before Cody. So I think due to the unfair ruling, I think Cody would lose the challenge. Episode 19, Hookline Screamer. Sadie's upset that Mike's eliminated. And Harold and Sadie stick together. Lashawna obviously has the Girls Alliance. She needs to get rid of, obviously, she needs to work with DJ or Harold in this episode to try and get rid of Trent or Jeff, because Bridget and Gwen are not going to vote for their mans. They're not going to vote for Jeff and Bridget's not going to vote for Jeff, and Gwen's not going to vote for Trent. So here, what would happen? Well, Jeff and Bridget are making out in the woods, so they get caught. Sadie goes to the bathroom, DJ goes to the bathroom, and Harold goes with him, so he gets caught. And then Sadie and Lashawna get caught together. Sadie gets caught after trying to get lunch. Gets caught after trying to look for Harold. Lashawna tricks Gwen and beats the fake psycho killer, and Gwen and Trent win immunity. And DJ still gets the worst death, so he gets voted off. Episode 20. Wakanda Gone Wild. So Lashawna works with Harold and tries to get Sadie and points out that there are two couples in the game. It was a mistake to get two couples to get this far. I think Gwen would win immunity because I think Gwen personally did the best in this challenge. And Harold would be authentic, but I don't think he'd be able to match Gwen. So Lashawna wants to keep Gwen happy for one more day. So she tells Harold and Gwen and Trent to vote for Jeff. Because this is an episode earlier, Gwen and Jeff's friendship aren't nearly as close here. If it was an episode later, no chance. But I think at this point in the season, I think Gwen gets rid of Jeff. Episode 21. Trial by Triathlon. So Shauna, Harold, Bridget and Gwen, Sadie and Trent. So the eating challenge will be Gwen and Bridget. Remembering the race one out, I'm going to say it's actually Gwen and Bridget. Remembering the elimination order would be Lashawna and Harold, so Gwen and Bridget win immunity. Not that that really matters, because I think Lashawna would convince Bridget and Sadie to stick with the girls for one more time and gets rid of Trent. Gwen's completely shocked and annoyed at this, and Lashawna's the story girl. It was only a matter of time he was going to go. Just thank me he made it this far. Gwen is annoyed that Trent got eliminated and decides to work with Sadie and Harold to try and get Lashawna back to her old self. Episode 22 is still Lashawna. There's no explanation. Actually, Sadie's still here. So does Lashawna get eliminated still? I'm going to say yes, and here's why. Katie and Mike. I just realised the E-Scope team gets eliminated back to back. Here's why. And that's dealing with Mike. So Mike would get on with Katie pretty well. And I think Katie and Justin would get on. So with Katie here, I think Katie and Mike would get Katie to understand the rules. So they would vote for Lashawna. And Mike points out that Lashawna was manipulating not only the situation, but got Cody, not Cody and DJ eliminated, but he got Jeff and Trent eliminated. So I think Jeff and Trent would agree to get rid of Lashana. Heather would get rid of Lashana because she doesn't like her. Mike would be happy that his buddy Tyler made it this. Not Tyler. Mike made it this far. And I think they would have no problem to get rid of Lashana. I think Eva would get rid of Lashana as well because she lost to her in that challenge. So I think Lashana's eliminated. Episode 23, Mr. Coconut's time. Sadie makes Mr. Coconut after, losing it over Mike. So Gwen and Harold's trying. Sadie gets locked in the outhouse, and I think actually no, Harold gets locked in the outhouse and makes Mr. Coconut. Sadie is friends with Bridget and Gwen, and everyone realizes it's actually Mr. Coconut's time to get eliminated. Episode 24. This is Are We There Yeti? So the teams, it wouldn't be guys versus girls because obviously there's 2 guys, 2 girls. So the pairs would be Gwen and Sadie versus Harold and Bridget. Yeah. Now, who wins the challenge? Well, Gwen's really good in the original, and the guys originally have a map. So Harold and Bridget are quite a good team. So I do think Gwen and Sadie would make it back before Harold and Bridget. So between Harold and Bridget, I think between the 2, Chef would choose to eliminate Bridget. Episode 25, I Triple Dog Dare You. So Gwen, Sadie, and Harold go dare after dare after dare. And I think Sadie wouldn't get her hair shaved off. So I think the dares around what dares would have gotten. They would be around Owen. But I still think Sadie goes here. So 3rd place, Sadie. So Gwen and Harold are the finalists. So Sadie's with Harold. Bridget's Harold. Mr. Coconut, obviously Harold. Bridget's Gwen. Shauna Gwen. Trent Gwen. Jeff Gwen. DJ Gwen. Cody Gwen. Mike. Harold. Izzy. Gwen. Eva Gwen. Noah. Harold, because he was in that alliance with him. Beth, Gwen, Lindsay, Gwen, Owen, Gwen, Justin, Gwen, Courtney, Harold, Katie, Harold, Heather, Harold, Tyler, Harold, and Ezekiel, Harold. So the rest of the top each get 1 endings. So, basically, neither Gwen or Harold would give up the prize money because they would know they would have more common sense than. That's not to say Owen didn't have any common sense, but they would know better than not to give Chris money to make a 2nd season. So the Total Drama timeline simply ends right there on them with Total Drama Island. So let's get on to the events of Revenge. So Duncan's introduction is the same as it is in Total Drama Island. When Zoe obviously wouldn't be glaring at him, on Mike obviously on the boat. And in the challenge would play the same. When Zoe falls off, Duncan would end up saving her and she would thank him for it. And obviously because Stacey stole another team, she gets voted off. Episode 2. Duncan would have to go up again in the first part of the questions. I think Duncan would do okay here. Duncan would go up against B, and even though Duncan wouldn't be good as Mike, Scott would still be thrown for about 15 seconds, and on top of that, he was petting the rat, so he would slow down as much as possible. I think to the point where Duncan could realistically get to the end, even if he took longer than Mike did. So Dakota still gets voted off. Episode 3. In episode 3, obviously Cameron can't summon Svetlana to the challenge, and Emery still slaps him. climbing part, Duncan would realise Zoe and Cameron would be easy to try and get an alliance with. Joe would also respect Duncan as a strong player. I think Duncan would try to get along with that Maria pretty well. And he'd also get along with Brick. I think Brick would also respect Duncan as a leader as well. And Scott still sabotages B's mirror, so he gets voted off. Episode 4 is a scavenger hunt. So in the scavenger hunt, Dawn gets caught. Lightning gets caught in the tree. Zoe would get caught. Duncan obviously would. I don't think Zoe would get caught because Mike is picking up a key, so I think Duncan would do the same. Brick would refuse / wouldn't leave her. And I think Duncan would also vouch to go back with Brick. Amaria wouldn't be making out with Mike the entire time, so obviously he's not here. So the rivalry between Amaria and Zoe wouldn't exist. Brick and Duncan. I don't think Duncan would get caught. Cameron and Joe are off, so they get caught. And then Duncan would free his team. Now Joe would still tell Brick to win it. But I think Duncan could convince Brick not to run and stay with his team. So I think the maggots, Brick would still take Cameron. He would win. And Duncan would try to convince him not to. And I think the maggots would... I think the rats actually win because I think Duncan's influence. And with that, Maria making out with Mike in the episode, I think Duncan and Maria would be more focused on the challenge. So I think the maggots would actually be able to win and get to the end. And Scott would get rid of Dawn, similar to how he does in episode 5, but this is a non-elimination round, as Dawn gets swapped to the losing team. Scott realises he's in a bit concerned here because he's got 4 episodes and he still needs to control the challenges. Episode 5. This is where we have slightly showing Scott shooting, and I think here Joe shooting, Zoe drives. The argument between Zoe and Joe would still happen. Now Mike actually got a point for his team, so I think Duncan or Brick could end up getting that point, and I think the maggots would win. The rats lose, and Scott and Sam convinces Sam to vote for Lightning, because in case it's a tiebreaker, he would see Sam easier to defeat. Episode 6. Obviously, Dawn wouldn't call Scott out because they're not on the same team, but I think she would still be suspicious of him. So in episode 6 rolls round, this is where we have, and I think Brooke would still do his strategy with the maggot, and Marie would still dress it up. I think they would still annoy the Yeti. I think Scott could annoy the Yeti. I'm going to say they still annoy the Yeti. And I think Brick, Amory, and Zoe could get Joe to attract the Yeti. Like, Dawn can just talk to the Yeti. So I think on top of that, Duncan and Dawn would be friends at this point. I think Dawn would sense a purplish aura in Duncan, that even though he's got this bad boy persona, he's still a good person, and Duncan's like, whatever. So Scott, Sam, tiebreaker. I think Scott loses. So Scott and between Joe, who gets swapped over, I'm actually going to say the person who gets swapped over is Brick. So Scott and Joe swap teams. Episode 7 is where, obviously because there's no Ezekiel here, because World Tour didn't happen, Anne-Marie wouldn't get dragged by him, and Duncan, there's no Manitoba. Lightning doesn't cause a cave in on the rat, so Jill just goes off by herself. Brick is afraid. Dawn's trying to comfort him. Zoe and Cameron are friends. Scott still drops the statue, and Dawn's confirmed that he's trying challenges. So I think Joe ends up winning for her by herself. So This is where Scott decides to sabotage Dawn and does his item play. So basically, he puts the items on Dawn. The only person not to believe Scott is Duncan. But Anne-Maria, Zoe, Cameron, and Brick would vote for Dawn after realizing she gets eliminated. I think with the potential of also Zoe, I think beyond that, though, the other four are definitely voting for Dawn. As Zoe and Dawn have shown to get on pretty well. So Dawn's eliminated. Duncan's pretty sad and wishes her farewell and promises to try and win this for her. But Anne-Maria never quits here because he doesn't give her the fake diamond. Episode 8. Joe gets attacked by the raft. Or by the squid. And I think without lightning, they're pushing the raft and she's by herself. She would take a lot longer, so I think the maggots still win. Scott still hides the compass and the map. Duncan's suspicious of this at this point. Duncan's trying to get Brick on his side to get rid of Scott. Brick's not. And Brick's thinking about it. Cameron also suspicious of Scott at this point. The only other person is Anne-Maria. I think Sam Dakota is just searched him as an individual rather than as a group. And Scott would still be telling his team to dig in the wrong spot. I think Joe would win the challenge. They all vote for Scott. Scott has the immunity idol at this point, so now if Scott decides to eliminate. And I think at this group of people, the person Scott would choose to eliminate would probably more than likely be Cameron. Because Cameron is really smart. And most people wouldn't see Cameron as a threat, but Scott does. Scott knows that Cameron and Zoe are very close. And they're the only two people that are in an alliance. Well, Duncan and Brick are pretty close. I think Cameron can call him out and persuade people. And Scott would very like Cameron as the bigger threat. And we are at the merge. Duncan was very good in action, as he said, it was like stripping a car, so I think Duncan was actually really good at this. Scott wouldn't be towing around like 3 episodes, so he'd have to bring himself. Anne-Maria and Brooke, we don't know how well they would do. They would do okay. But I actually would think Duncan wins this challenge, because Duncan says it's almost like stripping a car, and he's really good in action. So I do think Duncan would win immunity, even though he's my favourite character. I think being unbiased, as much as I can, being unbiased, Duncan has been shown to have more experience in cars than any other character here. Maybe with the exception of possibly Brick beating Duncan, but I don't see Duncan, with the exception of maybe Brick, and maybe Scott. But Scott only won the original because of Mike pulling him from the entire episode, and Scott wouldn't have that now. And I don't know how well Brick would do in a car challenge. Not that that matters anyway, because Duncan would want to get rid of Scott after getting rid of Dawn, as he would want revenge for getting rid of her. Even though Joe and Brick would have a rivalry, Duncan would see that Joe would be such an easy elimination as a result. He would get rid of Scott for avenging Dawn. He says that's for Dawn, and this is for getting rid of Dawn, so I choose Scott. Scott's annoyed at this, and Scott's made a good game. He's wished farewell, and Scott's eliminated. Episode 10. So Brick gets a helicopter. Joe gets hot air balloon. Duncan gets the rocket. Actually, no, Anne-Marie gets the bird. Gets the rocket. Zoe gets the plane, and Duncan gets the bird because Chris finds that funny and all sorts. So we can just bring that forward here. So I would say Duncan would win, but I don't think he can necessarily get there, because whoever gets the bird, I think, just loses by nature. So between Brick, Joe, Anne-Marie, and Zoe, I think Brick would get to the top and would tackle Heather. So I think Brick would actually win immunity without Cameron being here. And everyone votes for Joe because she's the biggest threat. She's been bossy all season. And I think Duncan and Brick would work together to get rid of Joe. On top of the fact Anne-Marie also doesn't like Joe. And Zoe doesn't really like Joe. Episode 11. So in episode 11, obviously, Eat Puke Me Warrior challenge. I think Duncan would win the first part because Duncan's really good at eating challenges. Chef would still shoot Zoe with the biscuit gun and would end up turning her into Commando Zoe. I think Brick now wins this challenge because Brick is like as a 5 o'clock job. I don't think Anne-Maria and Duncan could match him. And Brick, Anne-Maria, and Duncan realizes Brick has immunity, and Zoe as turn commando. So Duncan is a bit concerned at this point because Zoe could be a massive threat. And we do see that Duncan has no problem voting for friends like Owen. So I do think Duncan would get Brick to vote for Zoe. And Anne-Maria would also vote for Zoe. So Zoe gets eliminated, I think, in this challenge. Episode 12. Episode 12. Duncan would be sad that obviously he got rid of Zoe, but it was for her own good, as she was too big of a threat. Anne-Maria and Duncan decide to work together to try and get rid of Brick. Obviously, Brick has each three of them have part of the map and the fire plant. So between Anne-Maria and Duncan and Brick, who would win? So Brick would race to the end with the fire plant. And I think what would happen is Anne-Maria... I think Brick would win the challenge, because Anne-Maria and Duncan put slow them down. But Duncan, realizing Brick's about to win, decides that one of them should get attacked by the fire plant, because Duncan's noticed that Brick's has a code of honor. But I don't think Duncan would do that. So I think here, Brick would end up choosing Duncan over Anne-Maria. So third place, Anne-Maria. As even though he would rather have a friendship finale than... as he would see Duncan as an honourable and worthy opponent. So Duncan and Brick are the finalists. And they page over for about 3 seconds. They each get 1 of the endings. My winner would be Duncan, but for the sake of this, let's just say Brick wins the season. But that's it for this video. That's my complete timeline if Duncan and Mike swap seasons. So thank you guys for watching this elimination order, and I think the season would have gone. And they're the few instances that Mike affected the episode. All Stars I'm not doing because they were both in the season. And there's that. So yeah. Peace, farewell.